the men that I was doing stuff with, yeah, it's all vibes and it's good vibes, but it just doesn't get me to a place where if I'm acting out of place, they can tell me. I would be celebrated if I do stuff that is even wrong with myself.
Hey. Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of the Conversation Capital with myself, Ursula Mariani, and my co-host, Ubonga Buata. Hey, girl, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am awesome. Thank you. Given, are you mic'd up?
I'm mic'd up.
Hello. So this one, the topic for today comes from a comment. So we're constantly listening. We're constantly reading the comments and so somebody came up with a topic suggestion around, remember we had that friendship breakup with Asantwa Bwatama, Abenao for Remamfo.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember that episode, yeah. And so somebody came forward and said, we were speaking about friendship breakups and what that looks like and the depth of friendships and the weight of friendships. And we were speaking of it from a very female context. Do you have the comment there?
I do.
Yeah, perhaps maybe read it.
Rafael Tladi said, I'd really love to hear a male's point of view on this. Please invite a male to talk on friendships. I've noticed that as males, we don't really speak out when it comes to friendships. It would be really good to hear from a male's point of view. And this is awesome because we happen to have two males today.
And so, yes, we do. We're tying very nicely in a few weeks ago. Remember I mentioned that I was at Muso Church when Goketsa was around.
Yes.
And at the summit, one of the speakers comes up and it was called the What's Next Summit. And so each speaker was speaking as to what's your next. And so Abdul Kolo comes up and he starts talking about friendships.
Oh, wow.
And the importance of friendships and the role of friendships. And so when this came up, I was like, oh my gosh, we found our person. This is the person to talk to. So firstly, hi and welcome.
Thank you.
We have rambled and
Listen,
and we
that
haven't
intro
even
is so nice.
you.
That intro is so nice. It's good to be here. I watched a couple of episodes. My favorite one was the lady. I forgot the mother
grief.
and suffering and grief. Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
it broke me 50 million times.
Yes, it broke many.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much
It's
for the
good to be here.
support.
It's good to be here.
Thank you so much.
Consuming our content.
And so, okay, maybe let's just start with who are you? Let's, start with the generics and then we'll segue into friendships.
Yeah, Lukolo. And apparently I don't look South African.
I just said that now. I said it on camera. I said, yo, man, I don't know Zimbabwe.
Yeah. I get as I was saying. I get so many people saying I come from so many different places. But yeah, born and bred in the Eastern Cape, and now in Joburg, and trying to figure out this whole life thing, do a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And happy to be here.
Thank you so much. And I know that you've got a wife and children and a family.
Yeah.
And so maybe let's just, start off with highlighting, because when they said looking at it from a male's perspective, I chuckled a little bit. I was like, men know nothing about friendship, first of all.
That's the content we're needing.
Yeah.
That's the truth you're revealing for most people. They just sit and
drink and laugh.
And
There's another podcast, one that I love, Shits and Giggles, where they're talking about different roasting that happens amongst boys and how bad it can get.
Yeah.
And the one guy says, guys, it gets so bad. They were sharing another tweet of someone, and he says, when I had chemotherapy, my friends laughed at me and said, my head looks like a lollipop that fell on the carpet. Like, that's how vile men are.
because when you pick up a lollipop, it has those little...
Men are so vile. When I heard that, I was like, I can't imagine going through chemotherapy and my female friends come and visit me and that's what they say. Like, you can't do that, And so, yeah, let's just, start there. Let's talk about what does friendship mean to men, firstly, because I think it means totally different things.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
I mean, I think there's this sort of surface level sort of things that men do, which is mostly social. So it's either going out and drinking, watching particular sport, doing stuff that maybe gets you attention from the opposite sex or the same sex. It's mostly social. So friendship around men is mostly at the best sort of level is social. We're just doing stuff together. And the difference would be it becomes a lot more emotional. So even if you do something social, it doesn't just stay at the drinking drinks or watching the thing. It always goes down to what's happening on the inside or what's happening in the head. Where for men, it's like we can discuss a soccer player we've never met and argue for 5 hours and then go home and I don't even know how you are, you know? And I think men find a lot of good enjoyment in that because it takes them out of their current world. So it's sometimes a certain level of escapism, of discussing other things that are important to you, but don't have much relevance into your life.
Yes.
So it's the common joke where men can chill for 10 hours and not know each other's names.
Yes.
And so I just know you as Umchita, Bra, you know what I'm saying? And so sometimes
Zimbabwe,
Umxhosa waseZimbabwe.
So I think there's a benefit to that. There's a benefit to the sort of social element of friendship and relationship that men have. That I think sometimes I find is very important, that men do need a space where they get out of their world and just be, you know, without any level of pressure or any level of overthinking and just sort of be. But there's obviously limitations to it. Yeah.
Limitations be?
The limitations are there's so much that happens in a man's mind that they don't have any other space to fully process the entirety of what's happening on the inside of them. Because then if I go to the places and spaces where we socialize and we do fun stuff, I can't fully express what's happening on the inside. So a man will be like, hey man, I need more money. You know what I'm saying? And so then we just sort of leave it at there, and then maybe we might just come up with 2 or 3 things. Okay, maybe we should do this, maybe steal a car, I don't know, maybe start Forex, whatever it is. Yeah. And then we sort of just leave it there.
I love how you throw around the bad ideas because I feel like that's men. Steal a car. High risky. Too much money, high risky.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then actually, if you spend time with them, with any man, and you actually dig deeper around that, it's like, yo, I actually feel insufficient, or I don't feel like a man enough because I can't provide. And so then the spaces where I feel alive, I can't fully bring myself to, because like, how do I even express that to the guys that I watch soccer with? That I don't feel man enough because I can't provide. You know what I'm saying? And so who and where do you bring your full self to, where you are fully understood and loved at the same time? So most men don't have those spaces.
Absolutely. And you know, I speak like very passionately around friendship because I feel in many cases friendship really like saved me. You know, just the space to be very vulnerable and to receive enlightenment and be myself and say, actually, this is what I'm struggling with. Like you're saying, it's not necessarily the money. It's that I feel inadequate. It's not necessarily the skin lightening or losing weight. It's that I feel ugly. And I feel like women can tap into those spaces. And so how do we as a society, and I know I'm saying this is, we try to keep as balanced as possible, but ideally it's predominantly a girls' channel. And we're women, we're looking at you guys from the outside, and there's the men that, like the one that commented, you know, how do we start moving towards a direction of change? You know, how do we start grooming and where do you start? Tell us you.
Or me personally.
Where do you start as Lux?
I mean, I was just talking to a friend.
I'm Jita. No, I can't be talking about Max Verstappen every week. I'm actually not okay. Where did you start?
I was talking to a friend this week who started a lady who's in a romantic relationship. And so I was sort of, just tell me your thinking around it. And I said, just be careful of dating a man who doesn't have friends. And then she said, what do you mean by that? And I said, what you do not want to be is to be an emotional space bank for that man to feel like he can bring all of his stuff just to you, and he doesn't have another space or other men to fully be himself around, right? And so part of around that
I don't know, Joel Amos.
It's exactly what I was thinking.
I don't know,
and I'm not saying, you know, all of his friends, but he must have, you know, some good friendships, you know, 1 or 2 where he can be fully himself. And so that's how it happened for me. It's the thing, growing up, it's a thing of you don't have other men tell you they love you, because already there's some level of an assumption there. So whether that's your uncle, your father, or even a good close male friend, you feel like those words coming out of them is, one, very foreign, and two, what do you even think or believe about that? But do you know how important men just need other men to say, I love you? You know?
I'm proud of you.
Yeah, I'm proud of you.
You're
It just
doing well.
does something to their hearts, does something to them, where we associate that with other things, and that's fine. And so I think what it started with me was to say to the men closest to me, fully express that, bro, I love you, and I see you. And so even if it's a friend who's not here and I'm calling, you finish the call and say, I love you. You know? And then I found that they struggled to respond back. And it would be, okay, sure, bro. Switch off the cell phone and move on. And then I could pick up the conversation and say, why is it awkward if I say to you, hey, bro, I love you? Because I do. You know, because we express our love in many different ways. You know, I take you out or whatever. We do other stuff too. And so it's just the space where I could be able to freely express to somebody that I love and I appreciate, hey, bro, I love you. That opens up the ability in their own hearts to then be able to express why it's even difficult to receive it and why it's even difficult for them to say it to themselves. I mean, not to themselves, to their friends, even sometimes their own parents, etc., etc. So what that all started with me was express your love, express your affection, and be a consistent sort of voice of encouragement and of love and of support to them. Because in most spaces, like, you have to perform in a very high level or standard for people to say, I appreciate you or I see you. And so sometimes just you being my boy, bro, I love you. It's like you don't have to perform and for me to be able to express that to you. So that's one of the things. And I think it's just having men who are able to celebrate the lows of life and the highs of life together and be able to hold the tension and the space that requires. So if we say a good friend of mine lost her aunt, and the natural thing for him was to retreat and not want to speak about it. And it's because he is aware of his own emotions, and it's difficult for him to even just express his emotions. So I said, bro, I'll just be there. And even if we're just quiet and don't say anything for an hour or two, my presence will communicate something to you, because it's difficult for you or for him to fully express what he's feeling on the inside. And then the next day, he moved on like nothing happened. And then just reminding him that it's okay for you to be full of emotion and to not know what to do with that emotion, but just for you to know that you've got someone to be able to process those emotions with, where men feel like they need to perform. You know, they need to have it all figured out in some way or another. And so it's difficult for them to feel useless, or for them to grieve, or for them to hold the tension of their lives, and for people just to accept them as they are, you know.
I've got a twofold question for you, and they're completely different, but I fear that I'll forget one. And so one of the things is, how did you get here?
Yeah, that's the very same thing on my mind right
how
now.
did you get here? Because in tune, man, in tune, very sensitive, very vulnerable. You know, very soft. And that's something that men try to hide. If it's there, they try to hide it. And you're not doing that. You're saying, I'm here and I'm embracing this vulnerability, this softness. And then secondly, where is the disconnect? Why is it that men aren't getting there? And does it have to do with fathers not saying, I love you first? And because you spoke of don't look for a man, or try to not involve yourself with a man that doesn't have many male friendships. And you're right, men look for that softness and vulnerability with romantic relationships.
Yeah.
And I always feel it's probably because the I love yous and the softness they got from their moms.
Yeah.
You know, and so you find that indeed, when you meet a guy, you feel like saying, damn, where your friends? Where your friends been this whole time? Because you sound like you got a lot to talk about. And it happens very often as a woman. You know that men require so much softness.
Yeah.
These memes and these jokes of my man around people, yo, give me my drink, girl. And then my man around me, like, oh, don't you want to snuggle me? I'm small spoon baby, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's true, you know, we all know that like two-face
Yeah.
that men have,
Yeah.
you know. So those are the two questions. Firstly, how did you get there? Or you can answer it second. And then what's the disconnect? Is it the father-son relationship?
Yeah.
Or are we too used to blaming fathers for everything? Where's the disconnect?
Outside of the second one, I used to think it used to be the father sort of dynamic. And I mean, it's a big problem. We can't run away from it. But even sometimes men who've been fathered well can also fall into a trap of sometimes, because you have a standard that you've seen, you feel like you need to get to that standard. And so because you've had a present father, you don't feel like you're good enough until you reach your father's standard or a standard higher. And a lot of the time it's performative. And so I used to think it's that. But I don't think it is, because I just think as men, we are not open and honest enough to say, actually, this is what I need. And if it is what I need, I have to work for it. You know, I have to, it doesn't just naturally come. When it comes to friendship and social circles, it can naturally come. We play soccer together on the weekend, we watch whatever stuff, you know, or we do any normal social stuff. There is not much effort except just arriving and just sort of being there. But if you want strong, healthy relationships, it does take a lot of work. And I think that's where that's where the disconnect lies. If I compare it with women, even some of the women closest to my life, they will do everything to protect that one relationship, you know, or two relationships. Where men were like, whatever, you know. If it's not happening, it's not happening, and we sort of just move on. So how did I get here was, I had to be honest that if I'm going to be who I feel I want to be and who God's called me to be, I need men in my life. And so that was the first thing. I need men, and these men, I don't need them to be anything. I just need men who will be able to love me and tell me the truth. That's all. And so even if we can't do social stuff together, or even if they don't fit my normal thing I do on the weekend, it's fine. As long as they will love me and they will tell me the truth. Because I found that the men that I was doing stuff with, it's all vibes and it's good vibes, you know, but it just doesn't get me to a place where if I'm acting out of place, they can tell me. You know, can they, like, I found that I would be celebrated if I do stuff that is even wrong, you know. And so I had to be honest with myself. So that's the hard part.
Hey, wait. We browsed over there too quickly. Because men have a way of celebrating the wrong thing. You know, be it cheating.
Yeah, whatever
you
it
know,
is. Yeah.
be it, I don't know. But I think that, I don't know. For me, I find that women, there's almost like a shame around doing the wrong thing, even amongst your friends, because you know women will call you out.
Yeah.
Like, Chomi, that's not who
Yeah.
you are.
Yeah. That's what you shouldn't be
That's
doing.
you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
But men have a thing, and I don't know. I don't want to I don't want to be problematic for this one because I'm not in men's circles. But in my perception of men is that they can actually celebrate something very wrong.
Yeah.
But in their defense, it's also a society thing. It's how society benchmarks men.
Yes, that those things are normal. Those things are good. Those things are funny. Yes, please continue. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's sort of, it's sometimes not even the wrong thing. It's sort of, it feels like it's the normal man thing. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, cool. This is how men act, or, you know, I've tried and it hasn't worked. And so I'll just sort of continue, whatever it is. You know, it could be cheating. It could be anything that's negative. And so men, it's easier for you to fall into the trap And because those men understand you and you don't want to do the work, and men are not open and honest enough with themselves, it's tough to have these relationships or friendships that are strong, that are healthy, that are, will shape you to being the people or the person that you want to become, So I think it's honesty.
One of the things that really hurt me a lot is how the conversation around men always being, let me rather say it like this, the fact that a lot of us have this understanding that men are bad or men are like this, saying things like men are like this. It has come to a place where it's as though men are born that way, as though it's the default settings that we have.
Yeah.
And no one, and I must say it in this way, I particularly get very disappointed when women speak of men as though it's our destiny to be terrible, right? It's like, think about it. If you are the guy who is trying your best to be a decent human being, you're trying to be there for your mother, you're trying to protect your sisters, you're trying to be there for your partner and be the best version of yourself. And then you're constantly surrounded by conversations that say, oh, men are, right? It's like, what's the point? You get what I mean? And it's exactly what Bonga was alluding to, Guti. Society in itself continues to perpetuate those. And I don't particularly think that it's because of it's the conversations that we're having. Yes, the conversations do perpetuate it, but I don't think that's what initiated it. I remember once saying to my aunt, remember Isitingo, there was Zebediah? Zebediah was cheating on
Mama Tabani.
Whatever her name is.
Agnes,
yes, Agnes. Zebediah was cheating on Agnes. And I made a statement. I was like, wow, why does Agnes allow this, right? I was very young at the time. And my aunt looked at me with this very snark look. And she was like, yeah, so wena, Mr. Right. You understand, Guti? That's the degree.
So she's almost saying, if in a few years you'll understand.
You'll understand.
This is just how you're going to be like.
This is how your kind are. Do you understand what kind of an impression that left in a young given?
Sure.
You understand what I'm saying?
This is my fate.
This is my fate.
line.
Now, I imagine how many young boys were never told that you're better than this.
Yeah.
This is actually how kings, when kings have sons, this is how their sons are raised. The ones who are stewards, the ones who are taught to raise those lords or those princes, they say, when they rebuke them, they say, a prince doesn't do this. Right? They speak what you are going to become or what they see in you. So when you're doing exactly, because if I say the wrong thing, if I rebuke this child, I'm going to be beheaded. So they learned how to speak what the child should be in rebuking them in not doing what they're doing right now. And I feel like this is not how men are spoken to. Where, I was literally having this argument with my partner where we were driving and we were having a conversation about if she had a dog and she was on vacation, and would I put the dog down if the dog was sick and the veterinarian was recommending that we need to put this dog down, they're suffering. And she's like, no, you shouldn't. You should wait for me, call me, make sure that I at least know. And I'm like, I don't want to lie to you. I'd put the dog down. And she's like, men. And I'm like, why do you have to say? It's like you're literally brainwashing me into thinking this is how we should behave.
And we make mistakes.
And you're
stupid
you're
things
pushing me to the point of saying, Vele. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
What Given is saying, especially the part where of society almost conditioning men by negative talk, right? Someone close to me was telling me how he can never come out to his uncles that he doesn't cheat, because should he ever have issues with his wife, they're gonna ngoba huye kuphela. This is why you must cheat, so that there's more King, you're too much in his space. You know,
I also know
There are
faithful
aunties
men
who
that are
say that.
ashamed.
Yes,
I know
for
faithful men
being-
that are ashamed
exactly.
of being faithful.
Exactly.
And they almost keep it a secret from the boys.
Yeah.
Because yes, a bari man. You know?
just to I mean, we're speaking about cheating, but it goes beyond. Okay, there are men who don't do certain things, so we cannot be painting men with the same brush. It's going to take a long time, but we really, and given it's doing the Lord's work, we need to move away from saying men.
And it's literally the statement, literally in your face. Men, you've been dismissed.
A follow-up question that I have for you is, there's this guy who you feel is toxic. I want to know, you meet someone like that, friend. Are you trying to press in and understand them better and be, better friends with them? Or are you like, that's enough for me, thanks?
More often than not, I try to keep a distance, especially when I start to pick up on those types of people. Because here's the thing, right? It's not even because I think I'm better. It's because I know I'm not. I can only exist within an environment like that and not, and not conform for so long.
Sure.
Right? So I literally try to just...
That was the word, right?
Yeah.
That was the word, friend.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah. No, honestly, I can read those things from a mile away. And the thing that saddens me is the fact that I find this guy, versions of him, in many different spaces.
Yeah.
Like many different... Like guys who'll just laugh at you because you're wearing a shoe from Woolworths. Like, I mean, really, dude, how old are we? You know what I mean?
And you find that, you like you're saying, not conforming. The first time you're like, really, dude, how old are we? The second time you start feeling like, oh, maybe I should change my shoes.
You know what? Exactly.
Yeah.
You start to entertain the idea.
You start to entertain the idea that, oh, maybe the shoes are actually wrong and maybe I need to. Are you intentionally, as a man, trying to meet more friends then?
Do you know, I meet more friends.
Yeah, like, are you trying to look for more of friend too?
I am not.
Do men
actively,
look for friends?
I think we should.
I don't.
Yeah.
I agree with
Which
you.
is also fine.
I absolutely agree with you. Yeah. I would love to meet more friends. I've started viewing friendships as investments, and I literally look at qualities that I value. I think with guys, you just have to
you have to find something.
You have to find something. Good evening, money. But to answer your question, personally, I would love to go out and find more guy friends. It's just very difficult because you come across this template so often.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's so surface. Let's watch soccer. I mean, there's a friend of mine who, to this day, so we were having a housewarming for him, and there were... I'm saying girls in the sense that female friends and guy friends within the space. And him with some of his guy friends decided to just put FIFA and play in the middle of us having a housewarming thing with him. And not all of us even came for the FIFA. You know, that's how disconnected they were. And as I say to this day, because one of our female friends to this day, every time we talk about him, she mentions that. Because it rubbed her the wrong way to that extent. Like, how can we try to be there for you?
What is that, guys? What is that disconnect? Is it that men feel, oh, this is getting a bit too mushy for me, and I need to, I can't take it. What is that? What is it when men just want to switch to soccer? What is that? Why do they do that?
I mean, I think it's still good. I mean, I would highly agree, but sometimes men just don't want to. You need to create the environment and the space. And so sometimes the FIFA creates the pre-workout. Am I making sense? Yeah. So we're not having a deep conversation. We are just connecting in a social space.
Yeah.
Then after that, you could be like, hey, bro, you were mentioning things at work are rough. You know what I'm saying? Then it just sort of creates that sometimes of an environment. But also it's the easiest thing as men where we normally connect with social things or the normal thing, Just like a small thing. I don't drink beer. But if I go to my boy's house and he's drinking beer, I'm going to drink beer. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just creating those moments where they are trying to accommodate me in a way that makes them feel comfortable for us to be able to have sometimes the mushy.
Can I tell you what my perception
conversations
is? And I'm prefacing with this. My perception I don't have the numbers. I feel like men are significantly more lonely than women.
No, that's very true.
And I feel
that's a fact.
That's
yeah.
true.
Dating sites have the stats. There are far more men on dating sites than there are women.
Yeah.
Far more. And the more successful men become, remember that the more committed to your career you are, you don't have much of a social life as a man. So the older you get, the harder it is for you to not only meet women, but and by harder, I don't mean you don't have opportunity to take yourself out of that comfort and actually place yourself in scenarios where
you're vulnerable.
Exactly. It's very hard.
I recently experienced, because I was chatting to like some people, we were just talking about being single and whatever, and this man cried.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm just so lonely. And I realized in all of my singleness, like, I
You've never been lonely.
you get what I'm saying? You know, like,
You've never cried speaking about it.
yes, I couldn't relate to what he was
Yeah.
saying. And I realized that I wake up in the morning and I jump on a call.
Yes.
I start with my friend in Cape Town.
Yes.
And then by the time I'm jumping in the shower, I'm talking
Yeah, you
to my
guys can
sister.
like make breakfast whilst on the phone. You know,
Yes.
it doesn't make sense. Like for
By the
3
time I
hours.
leave the house, I've connected with 3 friends.
Yeah.
Or, you know,
yeah,
3
yeah.
people. I've really connected with them. And now I'm
you've
starting my
spoken
day.
about everything.
And it's 8 o'clock in the morning. And I
Yeah.
live alone. And I've forgotten that I live alone because I was talking to them so much, you know.
Yeah.
And so I realized, I looked at him and I realized he doesn't have a day like that. He doesn't have a morning like that. You know, when he says I'm lonely, he means it.
Yeah.
You know, from morning to evening. You know, they've got an opportunity to work virtually, but he chooses to go into the office because then he won't connect with any humans at all.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, damn.
It is difficult as a man to make male friendships. It's difficult.
Very.
It's difficult.
Like
Because
women, you see our wives trying to
it's
connect
easier.
us.
It's easier, you know, because already we live in a very performative society as a man. So it's like, okay, I'll be a friend because you have that position. And so this is an exchange for me. Or I'll be a friend because you're respected in this way. Or I'll be a friend because you drive a nice car. Or, you know, so it's a very performative thing. So even before I take you seriously as a man, you must meet whatever criteria I have for you to be my friend. Where for women, the little I've seen, it just becomes so easier.
Yeah,
You know?
you just got to connect.
You just compliment my hair, and then immediately you're going on what you do, and then immediately you're exchanging numbers. For gents, it's like, it's very difficult. Men are struggling. I mean, if you look at from suicide stats to how it's affecting men's mental health, even at the peak of their careers, even if their careers are not peaking, men are just struggling, and it's difficult even for them to fully speak about what they're going through. It's even a more difficult step for them to find some level of therapy or counseling, whatever it is. It's a full loop that men are just not willing to take. And so we would just normally do the normal things that we do. And so sometimes that leads to very bad habits. And sometimes it just leads to very bad lifestyle choices as well. But if you look at it, for me, if I speak to men who are accomplished, men who are still building up their careers, they're just not honest with themselves, because it needs a certain level of honesty. As a man, what relationships do I want? And who do I want in my life? And then you pursue it. Yeah.
Now, I feel like this is a next grade question that can't be answered by men, but I'm going to try because it was off the back of the episode around friendship breakups.
Yeah.
If you guys can walk me through personal experiences, but it's sounding like you guys don't have friendship breakups because you guys don't have friendships.
No. My sister, I've got a lot.
Or if you can walk us through, like, have you ever mourned like a friendship breakup? What led to the breakup? Because I know when we discussed it in our episode, we spoke about the depths and how heavy it can be. You know, and I'm listening to you talk and I'm like, I wonder if they go through the same thing, or they barely have friendships, or they barely break up.
Yeah.
You know?
And for me, it would be truthful to say I'm still mourning. You know, friends.
I can relate to that.
Friends that you've had.
I can relate to that.
And it's like being in I don't know. You just go to that shop and you just think, man, the last time I was here 5 years ago, I was here with my boy, and we were discussing specific stuff that I've either achieved in life or where I'm at. You just get that, and you can't just give him a ring because you haven't spoken in 3 years. You know, or it's the fact that, it's so difficult to get strong, intimate friendships with men that when you do, you hold on them for dear life. And so when it doesn't happen, it's like, oh my goodness, how long will it take for me to get that again? Because it's just so difficult. And so that rings in your head quite a lot. Or because I've had friendship breakups, you become so tentative in building strong, deep relationships because you're just like, man, I don't want to go there again.
Yes.
So let's just sort of keep it at a normal sort of surface level. And so then that becomes difficult as well. But I've mourned. I'm still mourning.
I've never had a friendship that I could say I mourn per se. I don't even think I've necessarily dealt with, from what you mean, what I know you mean about a friendship breakup, where it's like one of you does something wrong, and to a point where the friendship can't continue to sustain itself. Like the thing you did is so bad and it's been so consistent. For me, I remember I do have a guy who was a friend, but I knew even back then that he wasn't a good friend. And then there came a point at which I made the decision, and I don't know, perhaps maybe it's also that for me personally, I've conditioned myself that way because of the nature of guy friendships. Maybe I've conditioned myself to be ready to just cut the line without being too emotionally attached and feeling that level of regret. But I know that there have been relationships that I've disconnected from, but it's specifically because of their behavior. And I don't know, because as you're speaking, I'm asking myself, Uti, maybe it's also because I do distance myself. I don't form relationships with guys easily, especially close relationships. And the reason I say that is because I invest in friendships. So the guy friends I'm talking about right now, I actively make time to meet with them. If they don't set up dates, I'm in their DMs. I'm like, hey, here's a new movie. Let's go watch it. Hey, let's go play badminton. Hey, let's go braai at my house. Like, I actively make that
Given
effort.
is this friend.
Yes.
You are this friend.
You understand? So I think maybe it's also because I know that I put that much effort. When I meet a guy and I'm like, could we be friends? If I have that thought, I really am I'm reluctant. Let me rather put it that way. I'm very reluctant.
I'm probably, like, you're probably not as good as you, but the friendship breakups that I've had have been conversations, so you sit down.
Our new legend.
Sometimes we have
now we don't
friendships,
even talk.
check-ins.
State of the state of the friendship
state,
address.
State of the friendship.
State of the friendship address. Oh.
And here's why. I'm not having that with everyone. It's really 3 or 4 guys because of the intentionality of the relationship and how deep it goes. Where if this is somebody I want to build with for life, we do need to check in. Is there something that I've done that has messed you up? Hey, when you say or when you do this is how it affects me. Hey, why am I the only one always DMing and saying, let's go grab a coffee? You know what I'm saying? Why is there such a disconnect? And so because it's a relationship that I value highly and it's deep, you it's like with any other relationship, you do the work. You have to do the work. It's like now, for me with my parents, it feels like the dynamic has changed where I am having to do the work to reassure, to support, and to be there for my parents. It's a lot of work, and I find that the same work I'm putting there, exact same with my romantic relationship, my wife, etc., is needed for those close, deep, intimate relationships that I have with men in my life. So it takes work. And so sometimes you find that there's a line that has been crossed, sometimes knowingly, sometimes unknowingly, where you feel like, okay, cool, this relationship can't go further than where it's gone. We probably just need to
I
go
asked it,
separate
but I
ways.
don't believe that you answered. How do you get here? Because I don't see men talking about friendships that intentionally and with that much. How do you get here?
Yeah, maybe it's the realization that you
given
need.
mention that maybe it's he's pursued with God.
Yes. So it could be a bit of that. I have seen how men have died on the inside because they just don't have people to walk with and to talk with. Many men in my own life don't have friends. I look at my parents, my father, and his generation. They are dying slowly on the inside because they don't have people around them. Friends my own generation are making very unwise decisions because they don't have people around them to tell them you're doing wrong. And so maybe it's me saying I need to open up the door and say, given you're my boy, bro, speak into my life. Tell me when I'm wrong, and help me to become who you see that I should become. So for me, how I got here was to be really honest. That if I would do this life thing, even with God on my own way, I'll mess it up. And it's easy. You can do this. You can go to therapy, you can go to church, and still make some of the most stupid decisions ever. If you don't have people who are walking with you, are thinking of you, praying for you, whatever it is, intentionally, you're going to mess up your life. I think there's a reason why women live longer than men. Sometimes it's not just health issues.
Yeah.
It's those deep emotional issues.
Community.
Yeah, and community.
Absolutely.
And so for me, it was just to be honest with myself that I need men. It's of utmost importance.
Do you feel that there are certain relationships that you can, or friendships that you can have with women, but they won't hit the spot the same way? Do you think that having friendships with women can what's the word I'm looking for?
100%. It's
Substitute.
Yeah,
like, hey,
fully.
These men aren't connected.
Yeah, I agree. Because I mean, I'm married, whatever.
Yeah.
And there's a deepness and depth that my wife can't give me, that men or relationships with the guys in my life will give me.
Yes.
She can't feel some of those holes. And we're very close.
Yes.
Yeah. We ride it out. We're really good. But sometimes you just need a man to talk to. And it's sometimes it's the pressures of life. Sometimes the relationship itself is pressure, and sometimes it's very good pressure. You're supposed to go to Mauritius next year and you feel like, oh my goodness, and I promised her we're going to do Mauritius next year. And, but the money is not money. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes you just need a guy to say, hey, bro, hey, what car we robbing next week?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And just to be somber about the moment that the life that I would want for my significant other, I can't provide.
Ooh.
There's a conversation I was having with a friend of mine, and we were talking about our partners. We, without really getting into the details, but we got to this place where we started realizing, first of all, I realized that there are things that I couldn't warn him about his partner because we didn't talk about his partner. There are certain things that you can come to a mutual understanding of when you compare notes, whether it's you comparing notes with your friend as a woman, where like, they do struggle with that. It just gives you a sort of, so I'm not insane. Kind of feeling, And that's the kind of feeling I had when I had that conversation with him. And I feel like very few women could have given me that. Like, so actually I'm not insane. Like, this is actually something that women do. You're experiencing it. And if I'm having a conversation with another guy and he brings it up, it's, okay, cool. Now I just need to decide, or even with your help, how do we approach such in our relationships? But one thing I also realized, Guti, guys don't talk about their relationships.
Yeah.
It's like, inalo girl, inalo girl. Yeah,
Sure.
girl up endlini. But as far as how is she treating you? Like, does she actually care about your aspirations? How does she treat you when it comes to your business, the things that you want to do? How does she feel about the fact that you want to do an MBA? How does she feel about the fact that, all of these things? Then, those are the types of conversations we were having. That's when we for the first time, I could contextualize him in his relationship. That's the first time I was like, oh, dude, snap, man. So this is what you've been going through the whole time. Like, there's some financial thing that he'd been going through and trying to share it with her. Yeah. And she received it in some type of way. And I'm like, oh, snap, dude. And here I am all this time through this financial thing he's been going through. I've been worried about him, right? And thinking, Guti, it didn't occur to me that the relationship might also have its own opinion on this financial situation he's going through.
Yeah.
You understand? So I do say there's a lot that female friendships can substitute, but
Yes.
definitely not everything.
Yeah, and
definitely.
I mean,
not
I think
everything.
maybe it's another conversation of, as a society, I think we've idolized romantic relationships or marriage to the point
I'm
where
looking because we talk about it all the time.
yeah, to the point where friendship feels like it's a nice to have.
Yeah.
Right? It's a sort of, it's a secondary nice to have. And so the natural thing is to get a partner and invest all your money, energy, and time to this one partner, because finally you've reached the upper echelons of life. And then all your friends kind of just get the scraps. And they must understand.
Yeah, because I'm there now.
They must, but for you, men or women, to reach your full potential, you need, and you don't need this, but you need people who will walk with you through all these different stages of life, and you need to invest as much time and energy into it. I mean, if you look at just
really
a normal
like that.
series or
I
anything that we watch in our society, stuff that work well on Instagram, it's all the couple stuff. But do we celebrate friendships and real authentic
Friendship goals.
Yeah,
Hashtag friendship goals.
and not do it because you want people to like it or to look good on the socials, but just have real strong, good friends that will be there with you through the highs and the lows of life, and who will make you be who God's called you to be. Yeah.
I really like this topic, and I'm actually really passionate about it. And I think it's one of the reasons why Boston Legal, I'm saying it again, is my favorite series, because the whole series is around like the beauty of friendship. And it's so
It's
different.
beautiful. Where is it? Is it Netflix?
It's really old.
It's really old.
I don't think it,
Okay.
not that, not that I'm a parent.
She confessed.
Not that I'm a parent.
Hey.
It's very old. I don't know where you would find it
Oh,
on a
listen,
legal.
I'm charging you right now. I'm really passionate about this topic because I think it will help us as a society in so many ways.
Yes.
We need
Yes.
good and strong friends.
Yes, I
People that
agree
will
with
be
this.
us.
And like a community, the mystery of Rosettenville. Once again, I think maybe it's because we've had this topic on the female side. I think I spoke about it before. The mystery of Rosettenville, where there's this society in America that isn't dying. And like doctors are trying to figure out like what's going on with, the rate of like obesity and heart attacks. Why specifically this Rosettenville area? I think it's Rosettenville. And it turns out that it was an Italian community. So the people migrating to America, there was an Italian community. And the Italians are generally, because they were looking at their diet, it's like pasta and cheeses and so rich and whatever. Why are these people not dying of heart attacks? And we need to find that they had a very community-based, they would like walk down the road, stand by the fence and chat, and then move on to the next, friend. And just the idea that community can actually save your life, beyond what you eat, even just having friends and being involved and invested, beyond, like you said, this one romantic person. And I found that sometimes it also puts so much weight on a romantic relationship when you expect one person to be your everything. Given spoke earlier of the one friend that doesn't have necessarily the answers, but he can reach and tap into another person. This is a really important dynamic that we all face. We all go to, there's certain friends that I couldn't go to over something work related, right? And then I've got this cousin of mine, Wawa. When it's got to do with work, I pick up I say, Wawa, these people at work. And we can connect, and she can speak to me in a way that I hear, and I go to her for things like that. And then there's another friend that I'll go to for like, my parents, this is stressing me out. There's another one that I go to, Giriam Jolo, and just acknowledging that people carry, and maybe perhaps not crucifying people for not being able to carry you in a certain thing. And we crucify people that can't carry us in certain spaces because we don't have enough people. We're not doing the work to create enough circles and to have enough enough people for us to spread the load. Instead, I want you to give me wisdom on Mjolo, give me
Exactly.
wisdom on work,
Yes.
give me wisdom
Yeah.
on, we're not diversifying and not creating these communities where we can draw from other
Yeah.
sources and wells
That's
of
good.
wisdom.
And maybe for friendships as well. You've got different friends for different things. Because you're not going to have these two friends that will fill
Yes.
all your buckets.
Absolutely not.
And so maybe you need depth in all that sort of stages and departments of your life. And you're not having just this one friend for everything, So yeah. I think it's very good. It's very wise. But I think just the intentionality to have, as a man, strong men who you can be emotional with,
Yes.
who can go through all the different stages of life with you, that you can be fully open and honest with, and who will check in on you, who will invest as much time and as energy with you. We need it. I do think our lives depend on it.
Our lives depend on it.
Yeah.
That was Aptilux. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your
It was
time.
good.
Thank you for, just...
Ori Abuti Lax.
Eh.
Oh, that's why earlier I was like, who's this? You sound like you're saying one word.
Oh, Kira Abuti. Hey,
Yes.
hey, that was today's episode of The Conversation Capital. I'd love to hear from you. This is one of those discussions that I'd love to hear from you. So please make sure you leave comments in the comment section. Women, leave comments in the comment section. Your experience of your man and his friendships, or your brother and his friendships, or your dad and their friendships, and men as well. Guide us through this. Let's have the discussion. Let's start the conversation. That was today's episode of The Conversation Capital. Thank you so much for liking, sharing, and subscribing. For now, though, goodbye and God bless.